Okay. I haven't told you about this, but a little under 2 weeks ago, there were gunshots outside my window. Okay. So our audience, if you want to hear the story of there being gang violence outside of my window on Cinco de Mayo, go watch episode 6 of the Lionheart Project. I'm going to explain what happened to Linda Hill right now so we can talk about it a little bit. Pausing. And we're back. So that's what happened and I witnessed. And I mentioned when I told the story last week that the first thing that I noticed that let me know that something was up was that there were a bunch of cop cars with their sirens blaring. The second thing that I noticed was that there was a group of people walking, like a group of like 16 people walking down the street that seemed to be pushing and shoving. And the third thing was that all of these people were wearing the same thing and all black. Okay? And I wanted to address the racist thoughts and the state of things today with regards to political correctness and anti-political correctness. If you talk to conservatives, I think that a lot of conservatives will say the left is obsessed with racism. They have no sense of humor. And if you say anything with regards to race, they will just jump down your throat. They'll treat you like you're a Nazi for saying absolutely trivial things. And it doesn't just extend to racism, it extends to sexism. If you try to say that men are stronger than women, then feminists will jump down your throat and they'll try to, completely destroy your life. Just political correctness on the left is out of control. I think that there is a sense, I think that this is a sentiment that people on the right feel and express. When do you call people out for racism in particular? You specifically, Linda Hill. Have you ever called out somebody for racism?
I mean, one time I was with this, grandmother figure. It was funny because we were at a Mexican restaurant. She was talking about how her city was voted like one of the safest cities in the US or something like that.
And then...
And she was like, she was so surprised. She's like, you wouldn't think it with all the Mexicans that we have living there.
Okay. And what did you say?
I mean, it wasn't my grandmother, so I didn't want to really,
You didn't want to get in a fight with your prom dates.
Yeah.
You know what? You, Joshua's grandma.
I mean, I did that thing where you look surprised and you're like, and you say something like, what do you mean? And then they end up clarifying that it really was racist, whatever they were saying.
Oh, in case you didn't realize.
I mean, so that's definitely something I would classify as racism, but it's not something that I necessarily called out.
Okay. If this was... So in real life, you are quite a liberal person, but in real life, you will rarely, even in the face of blatant racism, call strangers or acquaintances out as being racist, right?
Right.
You might say, you know what, screw that person, and not associate with them. You might say things to your friends, but you're not so confrontational because you're a normal person. So you just say, that person's a jackass, and move on. I would say that most people on the left are probably like that. In real life, they will shake their heads, but they're not going to get involved. You don't get involved where you see the crazy person twitching and muttering down the street. You shake your head, you say, man, that's sad, and you move on. On the internet, though, the dynamic is different. And people can flock to examples of racism, and they can shout with their megaphones on Twitter or in comment sections or whatever how bad it is. Everybody is more likely to get involved because the consequences of getting involved are basically nothing. And then in addition to that, the people who are naturally more inclined to get involved can super get involved and dedicate hours and hours of time speaking to tens of thousands or millions of strangers and say whatever they want to say. So IRL, in real life, combating racism and internet combating racism are vastly different cultures, and you have vastly different experiences if it's happening in real life or on that kind of platform. Really, they're completely different things. So one of the problems that I'm encountering with the world today is people are taking their experiences on the internet and acting like this is what's happening in real life. They're acting like whenever I say something racist on the internet, I have Facebook friends that talk about me, or people tweet about it and say that it's bad, and then they get into real life and they go into their jobs and they're at family dinners and they say, if you say anything that somebody thinks is racist, you get attacked for it. And they say this to a group of actual humans actually sitting in the same room with them who don't do that shit. So for starters, everybody needs to recognize, okay, real life and the internet have different rules, and I'm not going to take the things that I experience on the internet and say that that's what people do when I'm sitting across the table from them. So that's step number one. Step number two is trying to address political correctness. Everybody has racist thoughts and sexist thoughts. Screw everyone else but me thoughts. And I think that what's happening in the world today, if you look at the language of the internet right and how they hate virtue signaling and political correctness and all this stuff, is I think that there's perceptions by the internet right that liberals have all of these thoughts too, but they act holier than thou, and they act like you're a piece of shit if you say that out loud, when really they're just too afraid to say it themselves because they don't want to get attacked, and they're doing the attacking. So me saying what I really think is me being a hero, and them attacking me for it is them being a coward and a bullshitter. And man, I really hate political correctness. And man, will I make that my primary issue and decide who gets the goddamn nuclear launch codes based on it. Okay? Mm-hmm. So those are the stakes. Apparently, this problem is so significant that if we don't solve it, the nuclear launch codes will go in the hands of people it shouldn't be in the hands of. So apparently we have to talk about this.